Hi there everyone, welcome back to the channel, and today welcome to this 1500 point battle report between the forces of the Astra Militarum and the Ultramarines in Arcs of Omen Grand Tournament. Continuing on with the Arcs of Omen Strike Force level missions, we are playing mission 1-2, tear down their icons between these two Imperial forces today. So that is 4 victory points at the start of your command phase for holding 1, 2, and more objective markers than your opponent. We have this sort of long diagonal side deployment with the Ultramarines on one side, facing off against the Imperial Guard on the other. For our objectives, we have 1 smack dab in the middle of each deployment zone, and then 3 running along diagonally across no man's land with 1 dead center. For terrain, we're going to be playing what you see is what you get. Everything that looks like a ruin is going to act as a 5-inch tall or taller obscuring ruin, so infantry can move through it. We have a pair of craters kind of running between our no man's land objectives. And then these smaller pieces of terrain are just going to be a little bit of line of sight blocking. And then while I don't anticipate them mattering too much, since they are pretty deep in the deployment zones, the crates are going to be crates. So can't go through them, have to go up, over, and around them. So just trying to give a little bit more, or a little bit less line of sight deep into the deployment zones. But with both of these being pretty shooty armies, don't think they'll matter too much. So that is the mission and the terrain. So now let's take a look at the armies. For the forces of the Ultramarines, we're going to be starting off on 4 CP. With our Arcs of Omen detachment, I chose troops as my compulsory choice. So just kind of going around as we see. We're going to have 1 5-man unit of intercessors holding down the fort, holding down the home objective here. We have my repulsor over here. Lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of guns here. So I'm just going to be playing it with what you see is what you get. So big Gatling cannon on the turret, las cannons on the front, bolters on the side, missile launchers on the back. Behind them is going to be a Primaris Librarian, who I have upgraded to be Chief Librarian, so I have the Tigurius model, and I do enjoy the model, so he is going to be a non-Tigurius Chief Librarian. Then next to them, we have a repulsor, or not repulsor, impulsor with the extra gun and the shield dome. Inside of that is going to be my second squad of 5 intercessors with the Primaris Apothecary, upgraded to be Chief Apothecary and Selfless Healer. So once they get out and swoop around on this flank, trying to keep them alive and healthy. On the far side of this flank, infiltrating up into no man's land, is a 5-man squad of infiltrators. Then coming back around, we have a gladiator with the double las and meltas on the sponsons for some heavy firepower. We also have a storm speeder with the missiles and tri-melta for, again, some fast anti-tank. In my second impulsor, we have the Warlord Primaris Captain with pistol and sword. He's going to be taking Rites of War, as he is going to be traveling with a trio of Blade Guard veterans today. Impulsor is equipped with the same thing, the stubber, or not the stubber, but the extra gun and the shield dome. And then finally, a second 5-man squad of infiltrators on another no man's land objective. So, we're going to be starting off with 4 CP for taking 2 Warlord traits in Arcs of Omen. That's the squads, or that's the army for the Ultramarines. So now let's take a look at the Guard. For today's guard list, went very, very, very heavy into infantry, so not a Lehman Russ or artillery vehicle in sight. So it's all about boots on the ground and their transports. So I am going to be taking Born Soldiers here just to try to keep it simple. For the Arcs of Omen detachment, also chose troops for my mandatory slot. And with everything, just going to kind of go straight through it as we see it on the field. So on the home field objective, we have the field ordnance battery with 2 bombast guns. We have a squad of infantry with a Vox and missile launcher behind this line of transports. In each of the transports is going to be a squad of Cadians with plasma gunner and Voxcaster. In this one, with one of the infantry squads, we have the Warlord Cadian Castellan with plasma pistol and power sword. She has taken the 5-up CP regen Warlord trait for us today. Sticking their noses out a little bit into no man's land are 2 individual scout sentinels with a heavy flamer. Then we have 2 Torox primes with the missile launcher, a storm bolter, and the side-mounted autocannons. Each of them has a squad of Scions with a Vox and a plasma gunner inside. And then inside of this one is a Militarum command squad with a standard Melta, Vox, and Medic. So you can see all over here the infantry that are filling up the transports. Over here on the home field objective again, we have a single Primary Psyker with Night Shroud and Psychic Barrier, a Cadian command squad loaded up to the nines with Metapack, Plasma, Vox, Standard. We have a heavy weapon team of 3 las cannons hiding out in this terrain, a second squad of infantry with a missile launcher and a Voxcaster, and then finally a 3rd Chimera with a Cadian squad with the Plasma and Voxcaster to try to go around as much as we can with everything in range of orders. So that is the army. So next up we'll go through the secondaries that each army chose and then roll off our first turn. For the secondaries in this Arcs of Omen masked play game, the Ultramarines have taken We March for McCrag, Grind Them Down, and Assassination. So I figure that Grind and Assassination is going to work well with the amount of units and the amount of characters that the Imperial Guard have taken. And then March for McCrag, we're starting on 2 objectives in No Man's Land. So I'm hoping that I'm able to take one of those at least early game and then continue on scoring that throughout the rest of the game. For the Imperial Guard, we've taken Inflexible Command. Since I have a lot of officers and a lot of Voxcasters, we should be able to keep everybody within range. Boots on the ground, so leveraging how many different infantry and different squads that I have just to spread out. And then Retrieve Battlefield Data, again, trying to spread out as quickly as we can and perform actions in each table quarter to, again, incentivize us to take as much board control as possible. We also have, for our primary, the deploy, our prime, and undeploy, I'm forgetting the word for it, explosives. So this is the bomb mission. So at the end of the game, we'll also get 4 primary points if we have any explosives primed in our enemy's deployment zone, or not deployment zone, in our enemy's territory. So we will probably be doing a lot of actions with the Guard and trying to kill as much as we can with the Ultramarines. So with that, that is everything pre-game discussed. So let's get ready for a roll-off. Green die is going to be the Guard. Blue die is going to be all the Ultramarines. It is going to be Imperial Guard turn 1 as we go into the game. As we begin the first turn for the Imperial Guard, we have moved forward with all of the transport and our scout sentinels to take as much of the field as we could. In the command phase, the command squad was the only officer that was on the board, so only issue order is take aim. That's being applied to the heavy weapons team and this infantry squad with the missile launcher. While over here at the end of movement phase, we have this this infantry squad starting to retrieve battlefield data in this quarter. Meanwhile, all of the other transports have moved on out, getting everything as far forward as we can. With that, we have no other orders to declare. We just have one Psyker in the Psychic phase. So we are going to go to the Primera Psyker. We're going to start with Psychic Barrier, needing a 6. And getting it with a 6, not within 24 inches of the Chief Librarian. So Psychic Barrier, a 5-up invuln save, is going to go on to our Heavy Weapons team. And then Night Shroud, as I push the crate, is going to try to go onto the Field Ordnance Battery. With a 10, that'll get it. So just setting up some quick defenses back here for our little bit of siege guns and the back line firepower. So with that, we are done with the Psychic phase. We've gone through all of the command phase and movement. So now we are going to get shooting. I'm actually going to start off on this flank, starting off with the 2 Scout Sentinels. We're going to fire everything that we've got into this squad of infiltrators. So since it looks like they are going to be lined up to take a beating in the shooting phase, 1 CP, bring the Marines back down to 4 on transhuman physiology. This is going to be 2d6 heavy flamer shots. Only the 4 shots. So strength 5, -1, 1 damage. So 4s to wound now. And then 4-up saves for the infiltrators. Make 2, fail 1. So 1 damage will go on to a single infiltrator. And then we are going to get started with some of the chimeras as well. So we're going to have this first one fire into the infiltrators, starting off with the heavy bolter, hitting on 4s. And then that 6 will automatically go through to be a wound. And now wounding on a 4, thanks to transhuman, makes it -1 AP. Fails 1, makes 1. That'll kill off the injured infiltrator. Next up will be the multi-laser. 4 shots hitting on 3 since this is the turret weapon. Miss 2, 1 will go right on through to damage. Strength 6, wounding on a 4. Nothing there. And then the multi-laser for a Chimera has been upgraded to be -1, so 4-up save. Fails. And then still trying to get the new ones into there. So just 1 damage for the infantry. Then finally the lasgun array for a total of 12 shots, being in rapid fire. On 4s. 6s with Born Soldier will go right on through. And then 5s to wound. 1 more, 3 at no AP. Takes another wound off, so that will be 1 infiltrator taken down. And then we are going to rinse and repeat from this second Chimera. The firepower from the second Chimera was enough to wipe out the infiltrators. So that is going to do it for this little group of tanks and sentinels. I'm actually going to go skip back towards my back lines with the las cannons now for the guard, all firing into the repulsor, who has popped his smoke screen for 1 CP, bringing the Ultramarines down to 3. So -1 to hit and +1 to hit will equal back out to hitting on 4s from the heavy weapons. And then that is 2 6s and a 5. So 2 will go right on through to wound. And 1 will need to wound on a 3. Makes it. So there's going to be 3 AP4 las cannons, thanks to take aim. So this will be 6s into the repulsor. So make 1, and I'm going to try to save my CP for a little bit better odds. So 2d6 damage going through to the repulsor from the las cannons. For 11 damage onto the repulsor from the heavy weapon squad. So they are definitely doing their job nicely right there. Next up, we're going to stay with the squad that has taken take aim on it. So the infantry squad is going to fire their crack missile into the repulsor, see if we can't try to whittle it down even more. And then all of their las guns are going to reach out and fire into the squad of infiltrators right on over here. So 1 crack missile is going to hit on a 4, thanks to +1, -1. Hits on a 5, and then strength 8, toughness 8, wounds on a 4. Not going to wound there. We'll let that one slide. Not going to use a CP reroll there. And then next up will be all the las guns into the infiltrators. From the las shots into the infiltrators, a single wound was taken by them. That's going to do it for the infantry squad taking, or that we're receiving, take aim. I'll just take back my card there. Next up for our firepower, we've done this big chunk here. Next up, we are going to go into the Torox Prime here that is containing everything with the squad of the, or rather the command squad. So we are going to not risk it. We would really appreciate it if the repulsor went down. So everything from this Torox Prime is going to go into the repulsor. We're going to start off with the Torox missile launcher on top, firing 2 crack missiles into it. So this is going to be on 4s, thanks to the -1 of smokescreen. Make 1, fail 1. Wounding on a 4. Makes it. -2 AP will unfortunately only leave us to a 5-up save. Not making it there. I think I'm going to spend a CP reroll there for the Ultramarines, trying to keep the repulsor alive, and they will make it. So that's the heaviest firepower done from the Torox. So we will follow up with the autocannons on the side, so 4 total shots on 4s. Nothing there. And 5s to wound. Make 1, fail 1, at -1 AP. That'll be a success there. And then finally, it'll just be the Stormbolter. On missing right there. So that, unfortunately, is going to have to do it for the Torox Prime with the command squad in it. We really, really want to make sure that the repulsor dies, so we are going to rinse and repeat with the other Torox Prime, everything that it's got going into the repulsor. 2 missile launcher shots, make 1, fail 1 again, on a 4 to wound, makes it. 5-up save, makes it there. Autocannons. One will go through this time on 4. Makes it. And then the Stormbolter finally will make 1. It does have regimental tactics, so that'll go right on through for a 3-up save. Makes it. So definitely looks like the las cannons were the ones to take out the majority of the wounds there. So we are running down on guns that can reach it. Off camera, went into the infiltrators with the Cadian command squad, and I got 1 more of the infiltrators taken off the point. 1 less Marine there. Next up, we're going to go to my 3rd and final Chimera. Everything that he's got is going to go into the infiltrators hiding behind this tall building. Starting off with the Heavy Bolter. Not making it on any of those, unfortunately. The turret weapon, I could use those 3s again. Of course, when I need 4s, I get 3s, and when I need 3s, I get 4s. So this is going to be on 3s. 3 wounds at -1 AP now. So 1 more damage to the Marines there. And then finally, rapid firing with the las array. Getting triple going right through for Born Soldiers. And then 5s to wound. Pick up another 1. 4 wounds at no AP. Will take 2 damage. That'll be 1.5 more dead infiltrators. The final shots from the guard for turn 1 are going to come from the field ordnance battery, and their field guns are going to go into the infiltrators. Try to take the last of the frontline Marines off of the board. That way, while there are still plenty of heavy weapons left, we can at least deal with the ones right in our lines. So 2d6 shots from the field guns. That'll be 8 shots. So 2, 4, 6, 8 shots on 4s. 2 of them going right through, and ooh, well, 1 more on a 3 makes it. So that'll be 3 at AP -2. So 5s make 1, or make 2, fail 1. That'll be a 3rd and final infiltrator taken down. And that will do it for the shooting phase of the guard. So I will double check secondaries real quick, and then at the end of the turn do a quick points update before we go into the Marines. Counting up points for secondaries, we are going to get 3 points for Inflexible Command. We have done retrieve battlefield data in basically our home quarter at this point. Nothing for boots on the ground yet, since we can't score that in the first turn. So it'll be 3-0 as we go into Ultramarines turn 1. Turn 1 with the Ultramarines, and the boys in blue have moved on out to try to retake the field. In our command phase, 2 CP was spent on Power of the Machine Spirit, so that the repulsor can fire as though it is on full profile. We've also moved forward with this impulsor and gotten everybody out here. So the Apothecary and Intercessors are on this no man's land objective. Over here, the Librarian's trying to keep up with the repulsor, while back here, the Intercessors are staying put. Stormspeeder and Gladiator are both moving up to take care of this side of the field, while the Impulsor with the Captain and Blade Guard Marines has hung back a little bit just to try to stay out of line of sight and range of some of the heavier firepower of the Guard, but we are still going to try to take out as much as we can in the shooting phase. For Psychic phase, we have the Chief Librarian. He is going to attempt to cast Psychic Fortress. Just try to make the Repulsor even tougher to kill in the upcoming turns. And he'll get it with a 7. And there's no real need for Might of Heroes right now, so we'll just try to Smite, see if we can't get a couple wounds off of that closest Thorax Prime. With the 7, that will do it. And then that'll be 2 mortal wounds to the closest Thorax as we go into shooting. Before we go into the shooting phase, there are a couple of actions that are being done that I wanted to mention. So we have both squads of intercessors on their respective objectives, trying to claim them for McCrag for one of our secondaries. So if they are still standing and control the objective in our next turn, we will be able to hold onto that one. Meanwhile, the 2-man infiltrator squad are planting a bomb back here in the territory of the Astra Militarum to make sure that perhaps at the end of the game we can recover some lost points from that, or some primary points rather. So with that, those 3 units of infantry are going to be kind of out of the loop in terms of shooting, but we are going to get going with the anti-tank weaponry. And we are actually going to get started with the repulsor itself. What the repulsor is going to do is he is going to shoot his anti-tank weaponry, so the double las cannon, into this Thorax Prime. And then everything else is going to go to the squad of infantry back here in the ruins near the home field objective. So with a ton and tons and tons of guns on the repulsor, I'm going to do all of that off camera and then come back to you with the results. After all of the guns reached out from the repulsor, we are left with the squad with just the Sergeant, Voxcaster, and a wounded heavy weapons team. And the double las cannons actually missed entirely, so the Thorax Prime right in front of it remains unscathed from las cannon fire. Next up, we're going to do is the Impulsor. It's going to fire everything that it can into that same squad, because we do want to try to grind them down. So we are going to try to do exactly that, just to get that one squad off the field. So the Impulsor is equipped with 2 frag storm grenade launchers. This is going to be 2d6 shots for 4 shots on 3s and 3s. So 3 at no AP. So this will be on 4s since we are in cover. So that will be 2 fails. That'll take off everybody except for the Sergeant. And then the Iron Hail Heavy Stubber on top will be 4 shots. 2 hits. And then 3s to wound. 1 wound at -2 AP from being in Devastator, going back to -1. So a 6-up save won't do it, so that will take out the infantry squad and take us up to 1 on Grind Them Down. Next up in the shooting phase is going to be the Storm Speeder Hammer Strike. It's going to split fire a little bit. Its Melta Destroyer and the Hammer Strike missile launcher are both going to go into that far Chimera that's kind of on the very edge of the battlefield, while its Crackstorm grenade launchers are going to go into the Scout Sentinel that is right in front of it. We're going to start off with the Melta Destroyer, hitting on 3s, and then wounding on 3s. So that'll make 1 fail 1 at AP -5. That'll go right on through to be D6 +2 damage. for 4 damage. We'll let that one slide. 4 damage going through there. And then the Hammer Strike Missile Launcher on 3s, then on 3s. 1 at -4 AP will again go right on through for 3 more damage, taking the Chimera down 7 wounds in total. Then our 2 grenade launchers, 2 wounds at -1 AP. We'll take it up to a 5-up save, make 1 fail 1 for D3 damage, so 1 damage on the Sentinel. We're going to continue on with the heavy guns with the Gladiator Valiant. It's again going to split fire, try to take out as many of these vehicles as we can. Its twin Las Talon is going to go into that heavily wounded Chimera, while its 2 multi-melters are both going to go into the wounded Torox Prime here. So both of the multi-meltas into the Torox Prime, hitting on 3s, and then wounding on 3s. So that will be 3 at AP -5, so go right through. So 3d6 plus 6 damage. That'll be a total of 14 damage on the Torox Prime. So that will be another one removed, making sure that we definitely grind them down. It does not explode. And I will roll for how many people explode or die as they disembark. Disembarking with the Scions, and a total of 4 of them died in the disembarkation. So I chose to keep the command squad intact, and the only one from the regular Scion squad that is still alive is the Plasma Gunner. So that will most likely be a morale problem at the end of turn 1 from the Ultramarines, but we are in the middle of the activation for the Gladiator. So its twin Las Talon is now going to try to repeat that success, taking out this Chimera, hitting on 3s, and then wounding on 3s. That'll be 3 at -4 AP, going right through for 3d6 damage. Would have taken it off the field fresh, so that will be... And that will be an explosion from the Chimera. And the results of the explosion look like this. We took 1 wound off of the second Chimera and the Sentinel. The squad that was inside had 3 members die in the resulting explosion, but they are now in this table quarter. So we are now about wrapped up. The only thing left is shooting from this 1 impulsor. So it's going to fire everything that it's got into the freshly opened up squad from the Chimera. And then we will go on to scoring it up. The impulsor was able to kill 1 more in shooting. When the morale phase came about, we spent 2 CP on Insane Bravery for the squad of infantry, just to make sure that they do not fail and they are in this table quarter doing their job. The single Scion from the squad that lost 4 did run away to morale, unfortunately. So that is going to do it for turn 1. Scoring our secondaries up, we did score 3 points on Grind Them Down. We're working on 2 objective markers for March for McCragg. Assassination we have not gotten, but we have gotten 1 character out in the middle of the field. So that will hopefully allow us to get him down in turn 2. But with that, we are done with Battle Round 1. It's tied up 3-3. And we are going to move on to turn 2 with the Imperial Guard. Turn 2 with the Imperial Guard. We've scored 8 points on the primary for holding 2 objectives, and we have moved on out and continue to try to take some space up on the board, just trying to seize as much ground as we can. In the command phase, the order is take aim on just about everybody. So each unit that has one of these green die has been issued to take aim. So we have a whole lot of our orders being +1 to hit and +1, -1, I guess, AP on our ranged weaponry. We've also moved on up and out with as many people as we can. So we have this fresh squad going in, and they are going to try to take out at least a couple of the intercessors and steal this objective off of them. The Scion command squad has taken the middle of the field, hoping to have the threat of the repulsor be long gone by the time it comes for them to be shot at. The remaining Tempester squad in the Taurox is moving towards the backfield, just try to harry the back lines of the Ultramarines a little bit. And then on this objective, we have pushed forward with what we have left. The squad with the Warlord has taken the objective. The 2 Heavy Flamer Scout Sentinels are moving up, and this squad is going to be attempting to retrieve battlefield data in this quarter, while we also have a Chimera in the back for a little bit more fire support. The squad of infantry has moved up a little bit just to start closing the gap, and our backfield is secure with the command squad, Psyker, heavy weapons, and the field ordnance battery. So, lots of movement, lots of orders have been given out, and we are going to get going and start the psychic phase. I'm going to try to do the same thing as last time. So Night Shroud is going to go off on a 6 with a 1 and a 5. That's going to do it. So Night Shroud is going to go on to the heavy weapon team. And we are going to try Psychic Barrier with an 8. We'll get that. And then Psychic Barrier is also going to go on to the heavy weapons team, since they are the heaviest firepower left to me on the table. I want to make sure that they have the best chance of survival. So that is command, movement, and psychic taken care of. So now we move on to the shooting phase. We're going to go with the heavy weapons team first. Pair of stratagems being used. 1 CP for the guard for ingrained precision. So 5 instead of 6s will automatically go through to wound. And then Smokescreen is again being popped on the repulsor. Because the Cadian Castellan with the CP regen Warlord trait is on the table, I rolled off camera. Didn't get it, but I will be trying to refund those as I go. So we have 3 las cannon shots, hoping for 5s. Ooh, and a 1 and a 2. That will not do it. And even though it is going to be very, very early on in the shooting phase, I really want to make sure that I can take this darn repulsor out quickly. So I'm going to spend 1 CP to re-roll it. Don't get it, and then do I get the CP back? I do, so that doesn't cost me a CP. I'm going to stay at 5, but that will be only 1 wound. So wounding on a 3 from the las cannon. All right, that will make it. And because it's AP3 going to AP4, there'll be no save for the repulsor. So for D6 damage, hoping for a 5 or a 6 here. And that's a 1, unfortunately. So 1 wound taken off from the las cannons. Next up, we're going to go with the Tempestus Command Squad. And we're going to spend 1 CP on overcharged las cells. This is one of the stratagems that makes the Karthurkin bomb work really, really well to give us an additional mortal wound on 6s to wound. So we are going to fire everything that we can and try to fish for not only some wounds from our las guns and the melta-gun, but some mortals as well. So +1, -1, we will still be hitting on 3s. So that'll take us to 3 hits there. No 6s for the Stormtrooper's ability. So we are going to be wounding on 6s. 6s will also be a mortal wound. So fishing for 6s here. We get 1, so that's going to be 1 wound and a mortal. So 1 free mortal. And then AP -2 going to -3. So it'll be a 6-up save for the 1 shot. So that'll be a total of 2 damage going through, taking the repulsor down to 2. And then finally we have the melta shot, who will hit. And let's see, so alright, so I don't get regimental orders, unfortunately, but an unmodified 6 of hit will score an additional hit. So melta going in, wounding on 4s. Make 1, fail 1, and then that is going to be a melta-gun AP -4, go to 5. That is going to be D6 plus 2 damage for a total of 8 damage. Could have used that good damage a lot sooner, but that will be the repulsor dead. That'll get us some points for inflexible command since I was issued an order. Does the repulsor explode? It does not. With the repulsor threat taken off the board, we're going to go to the remaining Taurox Prime. It's going to do some split fire. The autocannons and the Stormbolter are going to go backwards, or not back, towards the backfield to the intercessors on the home field objective, while the crack missiles go into the gladiator. So we're going to start off with the crack missiles hitting on 3s. Miss on both of those, unfortunately. So next up, we're going to have to go with the Stormbolter. Fail 2 of those. So 4s to wound. Make 1, fail 1 for a 3-up save. Nothing there. And then finally for the Taurox, we have 4 autocannon shots into the infantry. And then 3s to wound. 2 wounds at -1 AP, so 4s. Make 1, fail 1, 2 damage. With the autocannon, we'll take a single Marine off the board. Next up, we'll just do some pot shots from the guard. We're going to have the Cadian Command Squad go into the intercessors behind the building. Nothing there with their las guns, and then 1 shot with the plasma. Not overcharging, nothing there. Next up, what we're going to do is we are going to go on with the heavy bombast guns. And what we are going to do, even though it's not necessarily the best target, we are going to have the bombast guns go into the gladiator near the back to try to make sure that I can start getting some wounds off of that before I go into the lower strength shooting that's over on that flank. That's going to be 2d6 shots for a total of 6 shots on 3s. I can just barely see it with the squad. 2 of those are going to go right on through. Strength 7, toughness 8 will be wounding on 5s. Nothing there, but with AP -3. 6s on the gladiator will not make it. That'll be 4 damage from the field ordnance battery to the gladiator Valiant. That's going to take us to this flank over here with the Chimera, the Scout Sentinels, and all of these guardsmen. What we're going to do now is we are going to start with this guardsman squad right here on the objective. They are going to fire everything that they've got into the gladiator, including an overcharged plasma gun. The Castellan will also fire her plasma pistol, not overcharged, into the gladiator. So I will resolve those off camera since it's a lot of shots, and then get back to you for saves on the tank. After the squad and the warlord fired everything into the gladiator, one overcharged plasma shot went straight through to damage. That took it down from 8 to 6 wounds left. And we now have 1 wound from a plasma pistol, needing a 6. Doesn't make it, so that's going to be 1 extra damage. And then 5 AP nothing lasgun shots on 3s. That'll take another 1, so that'll bring it down halfway from where it was, down to 4 wounds on the gladiator from this squad. Next up, what we're going to do is we are going to swing back around towards the back. We are going to fire this squad of infantry. Everything that can see and has range of, or line of sight rather, is going to try to fire into the impulsor, just to try to start cracking it, or just to try to get a little bit more wounds off, because I couldn't quite get the missile launcher into line of sight of the gladiator. The squad of infantry was not able to get anything achieved there, but they are in a slightly better position for next turn. They will continue moving up the field. Now we are going to go to the 2 heavy flamer scout sentinels, because I do know that the Marines want to grind us down. I want to try to get as many units off the board as I can. So I'm going to put both of the heavy flamers into the gladiator, just try to both whittle it down and get another tally on grind. That's going to be 8 shots on the 2 heavy flamers. That'll be 8 shots on 5s to wound. That'll be 1, 2, 3, 4. So technically enough to do it. If I roll horrifically here, AP -1 on 4s. And we'll scorch some of the paint, or do a little bit more than that, scorching paint off of it, with 2 wounds left on the gladiator. Next up, what we are gonna do is, debating whether I want to risk a charge with the Marine, or not the Marines, with the Guard to finish off the gladiator. What I'm going to do, I'm going to actually just have the Chimera try to finish the gladiator off. No risk, or no risk is worth it to try to charge into the vehicle. So we'll just go in with everything from the Chimera. Now this Chimera just might be enough to do it. We've got 1 from the heavy bolter, 1 from the multi-laser, and 2 from the lasgun arrays. So we'll start off with a 4-up save from the heavy bolter. Will not make it, and that would be the gladiator taken off of the field. And I think we're actually going to have to let that through, since we are low on CP already for the Marines. That will do it for the gladiator. Does he glow? He does not. That will be another big anti-tank platform off the field for the Marines, and another tally on to get up against grind for them in their turn 2. Our final shots are going to come from this infantry squad and this Chimera. Take a moment to consider my options, and I think I'm actually going to try to take off the infiltrators with the Guard first, and then see how that shakes out. So I'm going to have all the guardsmen in this squad go ahead and rapid fire everything into the infiltrators. Then we'll come back to saves. Only wounds that went through from the infantry were the plasma gunner, who went right through. 6-up save, or 6-up feel no pain from the apothecary. Was not able to save one of them, so it is just a lone infiltrator left. So we will see if we can finish it off with the Chimera now. 3 shots from the heavy bolter on 3s to wound. 1 wound at -1, so 4 up. Makes it. 4 shots from the turret multi-laser on a 3 to wound. 4 up save. Not gonna do it. 6 up feeling the pain from the apothecary will actually get him. So that will be all the heavy guns shot, and then the las gun arrays will have to try to get a lot of wounds here. So 5s, technically enough if I fail both my 3 ups, and I do not. That's just not going to be enough. That would be the end of the shooting phase. I'm going to spend 2 CP for the guard, bringing us down to 2 for that squad of infantry to fire again. Everything into the lone infiltrator, just to get 1 less squad on the field and make the apothecary a little bit less effective. We were able to destroy the last infiltrator at the cost of the plasma gunner from this squad with 2 CP. So that does bring us up to a tally of 3 that the Marines have to try to beat for grind them down, which will, it's possible, but probably very unlikely. We also have completed our second turn for the guard. In terms of scoring, we did get another 5 points for having everybody within range, all of our vehicles within range, and and killing somebody with an objective. For boots on the ground, we did get an additional point for having this regimental standard standing in the middle. Then we have 3 quarters with at least 1 infantry squad in them. So at the end of turn 2 for the guard, about to go into turn 2 for the Marines, we're looking at a score of 24 to 3 in favor of the guard. But we are going to have 2 March for McCrag objectives be claimed as we go into turn 2 for the Marines. In turn 2 for the Ultramarines, we've gone up to a total score of 15 for primary on holding our home objective, and 8 on March for McCrag. So these 2 objectives that I flipped over to kind of the swirly galaxy side, I have that as my kind of mark for March for McCrag. Now, in the secondary, I considered, it doesn't say that I still have to control it. I just had to control it at the beginning when I was starting the secondary. So I believe that the action still completes for the intercessors back here. However, that may very well might not be the case. So if you know, feel free to leave a reply in the comments if I did it wrong or if I did it right. So if there is a discrepancy in the score of 4 points, then that might just be enough to do it. But with that, we are moving forwards, moving into the tactical doctrine for the Ultramarines. So the intercessors, the apothecary, and the impulsor are going to try to hold down this flank, while the home field advantage is starting to quickly get lost by the Marines back here. So my chief librarian and the intercessors are back here, ready to maybe smite or fight and shoot their way out for the scions. Then finally over here, kind of where the action is probably going to be heaviest, we have the storm speeder, the blade guard, the captain, and my second impulsor, ready to start to try to clear out as much of the guard presence over here as possible. We're hoping that with a good split fire from the storm speeder, I should be able to take care of a couple of easy targets, rack up some points on grind, and by the end of this, hopefully get enough to actually, well, grind them down. With that, everything is done for the movement and command phase. Nothing really to do there. We are going to move right on to the psychic phase with my librarian, and I'm actually going to start off with a smite just to try to continue to whittle down the tanks of the guard. With a 9, we'll do 2 mortal wounds to the Taurox with just the squad inside. And then I think I might have to risk him a little bit. So I am going to attempt to manifest Might of Heroes on himself. On a 7, he will get Might of Heroes off on himself. So that'll do it for the psychic phase. Next up, we will go into shooting. Starting off with the intercessors over here into the Cadian squad, 10 bolt rifle shots are going to hopefully be 9 kills here. So hitting on 3s, and then only missing exactly once, and then killing on 3s. So if I can do perfect here, I will take them out to a man. Definitely not perfect, dropping 4. That is going to be 5 of the Cadians taken off of the board. That'll leave them down with 4. Next up, the Apothecary is going to fire his pistol into them real quick. And then I am going to have the Impulsor fire everything that's got into those pesky heavy weapon las cannons. The Apothecary was able to blast the brains out of one of the guardsmen. So now we are going to go to the Impulsor, everything into the heavy weapons squad. Starting off with my 2 grenade launchers for a total of 8 shots. So that'll be 2, 4, 6, 8 shots on 3s. And then 3s to wound. 1 wound at no AP. Makes it. Next up, we'll do the Iron Hail Heavy Stubber. 2 wounds, 3s to wound. And then 5 up since we are in cover. So make 1, fail 1. That'll be 1 damage taken there. And that'll be it for the Impulsor. So 1 damage taken on 1 of the las cannons. Not nearly enough as I was hoping. Off camera, shot the 4-man intercessor on the home field objective into the Scion command squad. And they were able to take him down to just 2 wounds left on the Tempester Prime. So he is now kind of out in the open. So just kind of doing what he can to hold on to that center objective. Possibly going to run away from morale, but if not, that is going to get me a pretty good score on primary, holding 4 out of the 5, or 3 out of the 5 objectives. Since those 3 guardsmen probably aren't going to be long for this world. We're going to move on to the Storm Speeder right now. And it's going to be a little bit risky, but I'm going to split fire pretty heavily here. 1 of the Scout Sentinels is going to get the Melted Destroyer. 1 of them is going to get the Missile Launcher. And then this squad of infantry is going to get the 2 Grenade Launchers. So definitely split firing, definitely could risk it here. But we're just trying to get as many as we can for a grind, since we still technically haven't gotten any. So we're going to start off with the Melted Destroyer. I'll say this is going into the closer one. So this is going to be 3 shots. Hitting on 3s, and then wounding, or basically killing on 3s. That'll be 1 going through at d6 plus 2 damage. So 4 up will kill the Sentinel, and that will not do it. Yep, we're going to re-roll that damage and get it with a 4. So that will kill us the Sentinel. So does he explode? He does. So with the explosion, that's a single wound taken off of a bunch of the squads over here. So that was only 1 of the multi-shots, or 1 of the anti-tank weapons, rather. So now we are going to go into the missile launcher, into my second Scout Sentinel, hitting on 3s, wounding on 3s, make 1, fail 1, and then AP -3 going into the Scout Sentinel. That'll go right on through. Unfortunately, that does only have a weapon or a damage of 2. That will be the Sentinel still alive. Next up, we will have the grenade launcher going into the squad of infantry, and they will both miss there. So that did get me 1 and took a single Sentinel down to 2 wounds. So not bad right there. Other than that, we just have the the impulsor left to shoot, and just taking a look at it. It does have line of sight to that squad of infantry next to the Castellan. So we will take some pot shots there and then get back to you in chargers. After all the chargers were said and done, here's how we're looking. The 3 Blade Guard were able to easily get in range and fight the Guardsmen right here. So they will chop them up. The Librarian did take some overwatch and took 2 wounds from the autocannons of this Thorax. And then finally the 5-man did get a 2-inch charge, but that will still be enough to get them in with the Guardsmen. So we will resolve all of these pretty one-sided fights off camera, and we will get back to you at the end of the turn. Here's how we're looking at the end of turn 2 and battle round 2. The Blade Guard were able to cut easily through the infantry squad over there and are advancing up. The Librarian brought the Thorax down to 3 wounds, but the Thorax actually was able to rev its engine and run over his foot, dealing 1 more damage here. And then the Intercessors were able to take off the last 3 infantrymen over here. So that'll be a tie on Grind Them Down. Unfortunately, that does not get anything for the Ultramarines in that turn for Grind Them Down. Assassination, we've got a couple of characters danger close to enemy units, but not enough to really worry us too much. And we marched from a crag. We did get 2 objectives, but it's going to be a while until we get a 3rd one. Probably looking at this one over here, as this corner is definitely full of the remaining threats from the Ultramarines. So with that, we will be on a total score of 15 for the Marines to 24 for the Guard as we go into battle round 3. In turn 3 for the Astra Militarum, we have fainted back with much of the Guard trying to give ground where we can and challenge ground where we can. So over here, we've abandoned this, other than the lone Scout Sentinel is going to act as a distraction to continue slowing down the Captain and his Blade Guard. So hopefully they are kind of taken out of the game while the Warlord and the remainders of the squad that was next to her hopped back into the Rhino and retreated back away from the Blade Guard. The squad of infantry got move from the Castellan so that they are advancing closer towards the center of the field. On the back lines, the Field Ordnance Battery and the Heavy Weapon Team both got take aim yet again. Over here, the Chimera has simply moved back to basically body block the Intercessors from coming towards our back lines. And then over here, the Torox Prime has taken out its contents, and they have also got in take aim. They're hoping to pull double duty, kill some Intercessors, and deal with this Primaris Librarian so that the Torox Prime can continue surviving and we can put a little bit pressure of the Ultramarines' home objective. We're going to do the same thing that we've done so far with the Primaris Librarian. Just try to get Psychic Barrier off, and then Night Shroud off, both targeting the heavy weapons team yet again. So that will be the command, movement, and psychic phase. So now we will move on to the shooting phase of the guard. I'm going to start off on this side of the field with the Chimera, putting everything that they've got into the intercessors over here. So it's going to start off with its multi-laser on 3s, and 3s, 4-up saves. So that'll be 1 possible wound. Do we make it with a 6-up Feel No Pain? We do not. That'll be 1 damage on to an intercessor. Then the heavy bolter on 4s, and then 3s at our 4-up save again. Make 1 fail 1. Do I make a double 6? I do not, so that will be 1 of the intercessors taken off the board, and that is what I was hoping for. So going to spend 2 CP on overlapping fields of fire. Going to really try to take off as many of the infantry for the Marines as possible. So everybody who targets the intercessors now will get reroll wounds of 1, and a wound of a 6 will improve AP by 1 onto them. So then after that, I'm just going to do the Las Fusillade real quick off camera, and then come back to you with the next squad into them. Next up into the intercessors as we try to pound them away. Try to make it so that if they want to hold this objective, they gotta hold back either a character or a vehicle. And either way, in the next turn, my las cannon should be able to take care of them. We're gonna have the field ordnance battery drop down 7 shots. 7 shots on 3s. So that'll be a whole lot of misses. 1 of them will go right on through to wound, and then wounding with the other one. So that'll be 2. The one that was on a 6 gets an additional AP, so that'll go to -4. That'll just flat out kill 1 unless we can make double 6s. We cannot. So that'll take 1 of them off the board. And then the other one will be at AP -3, so a 6-up. Close but no cigar. 6-up Feel No Pain from the Apothecary. Takes another one down. So that will be 2 of the intercessors off the board. Next up into that squad is going to be this infantry squad, getting everything from their las and the missile launcher into them. For only 1 las shot going through, and they'll make it. Next up will be the 2nd Chimera, pouring everything that it's got into those intercessors as well. So the 4 shots from the multi-laser. One at AP -1. That'll be 1 damage. Do we get it on a 6? We do not. So that will be 1 damage taken by an intercessor. The heavy bolter, 3 hits, then 3s to wound, 2 wounds, and I get to reroll 1s to wound. That'll be 3 wounds. At 4-up saves, make 1, fail 2. So 6-up Feel No Pain will kill 1, and then 6-up Feel No Pain will kill the other. So that will be the squad of intercessors wiped off. So with that, that'll take care of the intercessors and free up the triple las cannon team to fire into the impulsor that the apothecary is standing next to. So that will be 3 shots, 2 hits. We've only got 1 CP left. Don't think there's anything else that I would like to spend it on, so I'm going to try to spend it on a reroll here, and that'll make it. That'll be a 6, going straight on through. 3s to wound, make 1, fail 1. So these are both going to be on the 5-up shield dome save. So that'll be just d6 damage going into the impulsor, 4 damage on the impulsor. Last shots I'm going to do on camera is going to be the Science Squad that received Take Aim from the Prime, firing everything that they've got into the Intercessors, starting off with 1, 2, 3, and a pistol. Hot shots on 3s. And we do get the regimental tactics. So not only will those 6s automatically go through to wound, but they will also generate an additional hit. So strength 3, toughness 4, 5s to wound. So that will be 3 wounds at AP minus 3. So 6s to save for the Marines. That'll be 1 damage a time, so that is 1.5 dead. Then the Plasma Gunner is going to overcharge. So make 1, fail 1. And then on a 2 to kill will be a 1 to wound. And then take aim. Nope. So that will be 1.5 dead from them. The Prime will also fire his pistol into them. Then we are going to go to a couple of cleanup shots from the Taurox in combat, and then the Heavy Flamer from the Sentinel. The last dregs of shooting were actually very, very productive. So the Taurox Prime was able to catch the Chief Librarian right in the face with a crack missile, doing 4 damage to him, even though I did spend a CP to try to reroll the save for the Ultramarines. That'll take the guard up to a tally of 2 to beat 4 to grind them down. And then the Scout Sentinel did actually peel the paint a little bit off of one of the Blade Guard, bringing him down a single wound. With that, we are done with shooting. And while I do think it would be a very bold and very good move, we unfortunately do not have the range of Voxcaster for my Tempestor Prime right here, so I cannot charge in with the Science Squad as much as I would like to without losing some points. So that will do it for the turn. There is nobody who needs to make morale for either side, so that will go to scoring for the guard. Tallying up some scores, we got 2 more points on Boots on the Ground for 2 table quarters having an infantry squad in them. We got 3 points on Inflexible Command, because unfortunately nobody who got an order got a kill, but that is still going to keep us to a very, very healthy lead of 41 for the Guard and 15 for the Ultramarines as we go into Ultramarines turn 3. Turn 3 for the Ultramarines begins with 8 primary points for holding 2 objectives. Nothing to do in the command phase, so we have moved on forward. We have stood on this No Man's Land objective with the Primaris Apothecary. So while he is certainly not exactly safe, actually, you know what, he had the movement, so I'll just pop him in on the other side of the wall. The Impulsor over here moved over towards the center objective, while the Storm Speeder is going behind enemy lines and is starting to hopefully clean up some backfield nuisances, while the Blade Guard have advanced towards this No Man's Land objective and are going to try to claim it for McCrag, while the Captain takes care of the Sentinel and the second Impulsor just zooms forward to take some pot shots at other squads. So with that, we are going to get started with the shooting phase. We are going to do most of it off camera since it's kind of plink shots at this point. So we are going to do these 3 intercessors, rapid firing into the scions right over here. For a result of 3 6-up saves of the scions, that is going to be 3 scions taken off of the board here. Then next up, what we are going to do is we are going to take the impulsor. The impulsor is just going to throw everything that it's got into the remaining 2 scions. That way the commander has even less shielding him, so that in perhaps a later turn I can finally get on the board for assassination. The impulsor towards the middle was able to take the rest of the scions off the board. This impulsor on the squad near the squad of Blade Guard shot down and took a single wound off of the field ordnance batteries down here. And then the Storm Speeder is going to try to continue whittling them down, but split fire a little bit with the Melter Destroyer going into this Chimera, and then the other guns going into the Bombast gun squad. So we're going to start with the Melter Destroyer, hitting on 3s, missing twice, getting 1 for 3-up. We'll go right on through to d6 plus 2 damage for a total of 6 damage, bringing the Chimera down to 3. Next up, we're going to have the missile launcher go in with its 2 heavy shots. Make 1, fail 1, and then strength 4, so it'll be a 2 to go right on through for 3 damage. Bring this one down to 2. Then 2 shots from the Crackstorm grenade launchers. 2 shots. 1 wound at -1. Will not make it. That'll be D3 damage for 2 damage. That will take 1 of the field ordnance batteries off the table from the Storm Speeder. Wrapping up the turn 3 for the Ultramarines, we charged in with the captain, handily destroying the Scout Sentinel, bringing us up to a tie for Grind Them Down. Unfortunately, ties aren't going to do it, so we continue to stay pretty stock still on Grind Them Down. At the end of the turn, we are starting to put pressure on the backfield of the Guard and starting to pin them in, but numbers and firepower is still in the favor of the Guard as they continue to hold a majority of the objectives and of the field. So we're going to go into turn 4 with the Imperial Guard as they continue their significant lead, 41 to 21 or 23, as we go into battle round 4. In turn 4 with the Imperial Guard, we only scored 4 points on the primary since we only held 1 total objectives. So unfortunately not as high scoring as we would like, but we still have a very, very good lead over the Ultramarines right now. So we moved on forwards. We are taking the middle with some of our squads and kind of just hanging back in the back with what we can. The Lone Chimera has moved on up and is going to try to start defusing the bomb. So kind of a weird sentence to say, but it will try to get rid of that 1 bomb so that it no longer is going to score the Ultramarines some primary points at the end of the game. Went ahead and take aim on the usual suspects. We got it on the 1 field ordnance battery left, the heavy weapons squad, and this squad of infantry towards the middle. Warlord Cadian Castellan came back out of the Rhino with her squad, and the Tempestor Prime has fallen back towards the middle as well. With that, we don't have a ton to do in the psychic phase. I'm going to actually go with a smite, try to start whittling down the storm strike. So needing a 5 with a 7, that'll definitely do it. So that'll be 2 mortal wounds on the storm strike. Then we'll go with psychic barrier next on a 9. So psychic barrier on the heavy weapon squads. And then we will get a shooting for the guard. We're going to start right off with the heavy weapon team going into the storm speeder. So 3 shots on 3s. So 1 miss, 1 hit, and 1 will go right through to wound. So then a 3 to wound here. Nothing there. We'll use a reroll and not make it. Do I get it back, though, since the Cadian Castellan's back on the field? I do. So 1 las cannon shot will go straight through. So that will be d6 damage onto the storm speeder for only 1, unfortunately. So not great there. So with that being the case, what we're going to do next is we're going to have this squad of infantry fire all of their guns into the storm speeder as well. All the las gun shots and the crack missile were able to take out the storm speeder, who did not explode as we took him off the table. Next up, we're just going to go to the 1 bombast field gun, firing across the table into the intercessors. So d6 shots. The 3 shots on 3s. Totally whiff there. So that'll about do it there. The Chimera back near the Apothecary is doing the action. So other than that, looks like it's just going to be some pot shots. Oh, no, wait. We still have the Thorax Prime, who is going to try and take some of these intercessors out before he goes. So we're actually going to go, we'll go with the blast profile for the missile launcher. So 2d6 blast for max blast. So 4, 8, 12 blast on 4s, since we have 3 wounds remaining. So take all these out. So 5 at strength 4, so forced wound. 2 wounds at no AP, 3 up saves, make 1 fail 1, so that will kill the intercessor on 1 wound. Next up, the Stormbolter. Nothing there. 1 goes right through. Other fails to wound. So 1 wound on him, or on one of the 2 remaining guys, and then finally the autocannons on 4s. 2 will go right on through to be some 4-up saves, and that will kill the other one and kill him. So that will actually get the squad off of the backfield objective. So while he is wounded, this Thorax Prime might just be the MVP of the game. After the grand shooting that was the Thorax Prime, just a couple of clink shots off of everything. We were able to scrape 2 more wounds off of this Impulsor with the shooting in the center of the field. So that's gonna about do it for us. We do have everything in range for Inflexible Command. I do not believe anything that received an order was the one to deal the killing blow. So that'll get us up to 14 out of 15 on Inflexible Command. Not able to do any retrieve battlefield data, and boots on the ground, I think it's only going to be the 1. That'll be a total of 4 points. Bring the guard up to 49. Yes, 49 as we go into Ultramarines turn 4. Here we are in turn 4 with the Ultramarines, and at this point I just ran through the entire turn off camera for you guys just to save us some time. The Blade Guard were able to finish claiming that objective for Macragge, getting us 4 extra points. They were then able to charge and kill the Chimera. The 2 Interceptors were able to take a single wound off of the Torx Prime. Then the Primaris Apothecary is just kind of chilling here, not particularly doing too much in our second to last turn. So it is 31 to 49 in favor of the Guard, and they still have a lot more in terms of points and coverage on the board. So we are going to go through turn 5 off camera. I'll go through the Guard and the Ultramarines and come back to you with a summary and the wrap up. And this is the way the world ends, as Old Man Winters says. The Ultramarines do suffer a defeat. In the last turn, they were able to clear out the center, getting rid of the infantry squad, the Tempestor Prime, and the Warlord. So racking up 7 assassination points right there at the end, as well as getting grind up to 6. Unfortunately, that is going to end with them on a score of 49 to the Guard's 65. So definitely a good pickup at the very end there. But I think the Guard were just outnumbering us too much, and a couple of early game losses just really hampered us. And honestly, I think I probably could have taken some more infantry, dropped either the Gladiator or the Storm Speeder. That would have helped me out here a lot. Pleasantly surprised how well March 4 Macragge worked, even only getting 3 objective markers throughout the game, and 2 of those were pretty quick in the game with the Infiltrators. Was a good padding for points, but I definitely think Grind and Assassination were definitely iffy picks, so probably would have picked something different in retrospect, but hindsight's always 20/20. So, hope everybody enjoyed this Arcs of Omen Grand Tournament mission. Feel free to leave a comment if you did. Feel free to leave a comment if you caught anything that I missed. And I will see all of you folks on the next battlefield of the 41st Millennium.